John 8:57 and 58 from an American translation. The Jews said to him, "You are not 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham?" Jesus said to them, "I tell you, I existed before Abraham was born." A very clear and understandable statement. Jesus, as God's only begotten Son, the firstborn and beginning of God's creation, indeed existed before Abraham. Simple enough. All the angels existed before Abraham too. They all existed long before Abraham. Well, something happened. Around the year 1600, when the Greek New Testament was just being translated into English, John 8:58 became translated somewhat awkwardly. Many New English Bibles have Jesus saying, "Before Abraham was, I am..." Well, I am what? It certainly sounds like incorrect English grammar, and indeed, many say it is. It was English-speaking people that believed in the Trinity doctrine who translated this into such a puzzling grammatical way. Why? Perhaps so they can shoehorn the Bible into saying something that it hasn't said since it was written over 1,500 years prior. Before Abraham was, I am... Let's notice these video clips.
In Exodus 3:14, God told Moses his name is Yahweh, or Jehovah, translated, I am. Instead of saying, I am God, Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. Jesus was clearly claiming to be divine.
Really?
It's in John 8:58,
Okay.
when he said, before Abraham was born, I am. He's quoting Exodus 3:14, the burning bush. You remember when God appeared to Charlton Heston?
Jesus was equating himself with the I am title God gave himself in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14.
Jesus shocks them and says, before Abraham was, I am. Jesus is actually quoting what is in our Bible in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, where God says to Moses, I am that I am.
God said, I am. Exodus 3:14. Jesus says in John 8:58, before Abraham was, I am. That is Jesus declaring that he is God.
Jesus tells them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Jesus gives himself the same title that God gave to himself when speaking to Moses in Exodus 3. Jesus is telling them that he alone is God.
Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Ego eimi. Jesus gives the divine name of God from all throughout the Old Testament, from Exodus chapter 3, the God who called himself the I am.
Listen now to how this very excited, most popular evangelizer embellishes.
He said, before Abraham was, I am. I am in eternal existence. No wonder they got angry. No wonder they threw stones at him. No wonder they tried to kill him. And no wonder they eventually did crucify him. He stood and said, I am God. Was he?
Say what?
He stood and said, I am God.
Did he? Calm down, Mr. Graham. Jesus never said, I am God. Still, believe it or not, many people will say this I am is the strongest evidence for Jesus claiming to be God. That's how they do it. Consider this. We certainly know Jesus didn't speak English. Our modern English language wasn't even around in Jesus' day. So Jesus never said, I am. According to the oldest Greek New Testament text, Jesus said, ego eimi. Now, when God spoke to Moses in the original Hebrew language, God also did not say I am, but Eya Asher Eya. Unless we turn to the Greek Bible Jesus used, then we read, God said to Moses, ho on. Notice, none of these words are the same in the original languages. A side point, many of the oldest English Bibles didn't translate I am at Exodus 3:14. Early church fathers like Greg Thaumaturgus, Irenaeus, Novatian, Clement of Alexander, Ananias, and Origen. They all discussed John 8:58, but only wrote of the pre-existence of Jesus, his existing before Abraham, along with Jesus being divine. But they did not make any specific connection between John 8:58 and Exodus 3:14, as is done today. Conversely, we have examples from Irenaeus, Clement of Alexandria, Origen, Tertullian, Athanasius, and Hippolytus of Rome, all discussing Exodus 3:14, yet none of them linked or associated Exodus 3:14 with John 8:58. Interestingly, Gary Manning, a professor of the New Testament languages and literature and director of the Master of Divinity program at Talbot School of Theology, writes, "None of them, the founding church fathers, made any sort of connection between the 7 I am sayings and God's use of I am in Exodus 3:14. None of them. Why? Well, for one possible reason, those words simply didn't match up in the original languages before the English translators quite awkwardly translated them into now reading exactly the same. Actually, such a connection became popular about 400 years ago. Matthew Henry was among the first known commentators to explicitly link John 8:58 with Exodus 3:14, interpreting Jesus saying I am with God saying I am in Exodus 3:14. Of course, he was using an English language translation which was just becoming mainstream in his time. This included the new use of the same English translated words, I am, in both Exodus 3:14 and John 8:58. His commentary was one that helped propagate this interpretive link into the realm of Trinitarian theology. Surprisingly, listen to what one of today's most popular Trinitarian advocates has to say on this.
Now, you might think, and a lot of your study Bibles will immediately reference you straight back to Exodus 3:14, and probably a lot of you are thinking the same thing. You go, the burning bush. I am that I am. Tell them I am sent you. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. There is a connection, but that's not the immediate connection that you need to make. Because the Greek of the New Testament reflects the Greek of what's called the Greek Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, that the early church utilized widely, and certainly by the time of John, the audience that John's writing to, he quotes from the Old Testament, from the Greek Septuagint. And so when you would look at what's found in Exodus 3:14 in the Greek translation, the emphasis isn't on ego eimi, it's on another phrase, ha'on, the one being. And many Jehovah's Witnesses, believe it or not, are aware of this. So you need to be very careful when you utilize this information to utilize it accurately, because many of these folks, they spend hours a week preparing to talk to you. Most of us don't spend hours a week preparing to talk to them. And so we need to be careful at that point.
So it's clear the two I ams are not saying what so many evangelicals are misinterpreting them to say. Another thing, does two different beings, even claiming to be I am, make them become one? Paul also said I am. Does that make him become Jesus or God? So next time someone tries the I am tactic on you, respectfully ask them, did Jesus speak English? And kindly explain how the original language words aren't the same. It's the English translations that translate different original language words into being the same English words. Then ask, has anyone ever connected these two scriptures as proof texts for Jesus claiming to be Yahweh before the Bible was translated into English? In John 8:58, Jesus is simply saying, before Abraham was, I was, or before Abraham existed, I existed. This rendering is grammatically permissible from the original Greek languages, and it also makes grammatically complete and correct sentences. Jesus existed before Abraham just as angels did. Does that make any of them God? So, is it proper to pair or associate Exodus 3:14 and John 8:58 as proof texts for Jesus claiming to be God? For additional details on this, check out this video here.